Chang'e 6 lunar probe samples from the unexplored far side of the moon.
A pale hush settled across mission control the moment the first fragments of data streamed in from China's newest lunar probe. A silence so heavy it seemed to press down on every chest in the room. It was the kind of silence that emerges only when something wholly unexpected appears, something that rewrites assumptions in an instant. The probe, engineered for unprecedented subsurface analysis of the moon's far side, had captured readings that didn't fit any geological profile previously cataloged. At first, the anomalies were dismissed as calibration issues or interference. But as more data arrived, layer after layer, scan after scan, the pattern became impossible to ignore. China's new lunar discovery had uncovered something buried deep beneath the moon's crust, something that defied natural explanation and triggered an immediate surge of global concern. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The images that followed arrived blurred, unrefined, and cryptic, yet unmistakably artificial in their geometry. Perfect angles, symmetry too precise for volcanic processes, structures too orderly for random impact events. Chinese scientists, initially cautious, found themselves staring at formations that suggested deliberate construction beneath a region long thought to be a barren, unremarkable basin. The discovery forced a re-examination of notions about the moon's past, pushing experts to consider possibilities that previously lived only in speculative fiction. The moon had always been regarded as a desolate companion to Earth, a silent witness to cosmic history. Now it seemed to be guarding secrets that could alter humanity's understanding of its own origins. Researchers quickly isolated the signals that had triggered the initial alarm. These signals, oscillating in steady patterns, seemed to emanate from beneath the surface of a massive crater. They were faint but coherent, like echoes of a design far older than any civilization known on Earth. China's probe identified metallic signatures below the regolith, metals in combinations that rarely occur naturally and in concentrations impossible for standard lunar geology. The scientific team knew the stakes the moment the readings were confirmed. This wasn't merely a peculiar subsurface formation, it was evidence of engineering, evidence that something had been placed there intentionally long before humans looked up at the night sky. The implications did not take long to ripple outward as scientists pieced together the threads. If the structures were artificial, they predated any technology ever developed on Earth. If they belonged to a species or civilization that reached the moon first, that civilization was either unimaginably ancient or still present in ways humanity had never detected. The fear emerging across scientific circles wasn't simply about extraterrestrial life, it was the fear of uncovering a timeline far older than human history could accommodate. Everything from planetary evolution to the genesis of intelligent life came under scrutiny. The discovery challenged the assumption that humanity was the first species to achieve spacefaring capability in this region of the galaxy. China released only fragments of the findings at first, focusing on the scientific aspects rather than the troubling possibilities beneath them. But even the restrained announcements caused tension to spike in universities, observatories, and government research centers worldwide. Data leaks soon followed, showing glowing subsurface structures that seemed to form repeating patterns like a vast gridwork hidden deep in the moon's crust. Analysts studying the geometry saw alignment markers and energy signatures that indicated an unknown purpose. Perhaps observational, perhaps defensive, perhaps dormant after millions of years. The more the findings circulated, the clearer the implication became. The moon, far from being a random accumulation of cosmic debris, might once have been modified or utilized by an advanced intelligence. Some researchers proposed that the formations could have served as a monitoring station, a silent sentinel watching Earth's emergence. Others speculated that they might be remnants of a long-vanished civilization, one that fled or perished before humans arrived on the scene. Theories multiplied, each more unsettling than the last, yet all supported by the cold, irrefutable data from beneath the lunar surface. Geophysical models were updated to integrate the new information. Those models suggested that the moon's interior had pockets of density inconsistent with a naturally formed satellite. The newly discovered structure was located precisely at one of those anomalous zones. As scientists ran simulations, They found that the placement of the formation aligned with gravitational irregularities that had puzzled researchers for decades. What had once been dismissed as quirks of lunar geology were now seen through an entirely new lens. The moon's orbital stability, its synchronous rotation, even its curious size relative to Earth, all the traits that made the moon such a scientific enigma, were reinterpreted with growing unease. Amateurs and experts alike began re-examining old lunar mission footage, poring over forgotten Apollo data, seeking clues that might have been missed. Some noted that odd seismic events recorded decades earlier matched the region now identified as containing the artificial structure. Others pointed out unexplained reflections from deep terrain captured by earlier Chinese missions. Although none of this was conclusive on its own, the new discovery reframed past mysteries into parts of a larger, more astonishing puzzle. The Chinese scientific team, meanwhile, intensified its investigations, sending the probe into deeper scans. It detected thermal signatures inconsistent with a completely inert structure. The heat patterns were faint, suggesting an energy source that had decayed significantly over time. Yet decay implied former activity. Activity implied purpose, and purpose implied intelligence. Within days, hypotheses emerged that the structure might not be entirely offline. Some suggested it could still be running on backup systems or residual energy, its original function long forgotten or unnecessary. The implications were staggering. If a dormant mechanism existed inside the moon, it could hold information about cosmic events preceding human history. It could contain records or technology that dwarfed everything humanity had created. It might even possess capabilities humanity could not yet comprehend. The possibility that the structure could one day reactivate sent a quiet shiver through the global scientific community. Even if it remained dormant forever, its very existence would reshape humanity's place in the universe. Governments around the world began monitoring the situation with increasing urgency. Telescopes were redirected. Data analysts worked around the clock. Despite the secrecy surrounding the initial findings, it was impossible to suppress the momentum of scientific curiosity. Scholars drafted theories about who or what might have built the buried complex. Some pointed to ancient extraterrestrial species, while others suggested precursors to intelligent life that might have evolved near Earth before being wiped out in cosmic cataclysms. If the structure had been created by a civilization that once inhabited the solar system, the implications for humanity's evolutionary history were profound. Traces of that civilization might still exist elsewhere, buried beneath Martian ice or drifting in the asteroid belt. As more refined imaging data arrived, new details emerged. The formation stretched farther than initially believed, spanning a network of chambers interconnected by long corridors. Some chambers housed spherical cavities arranged in patterns resembling storage or energy nodes. The metallic compounds forming the walls were unlike any earthly alloys, showing resilience to extreme temperatures and radiation. Even in its degraded state, the material retained structural integrity beyond anything modern engineering could replicate. Metallurgists who reviewed the composition struggled to imagine the manufacturing techniques required. Whatever created the structures possessed expertise surpassing current human understanding. Across the world, thinkers began contemplating the broader meaning of the discovery. The fear that surfaced wasn't solely about the presence of something ancient and intelligent. It was the fear of human insignificance in a cosmos far more complex than imagined. Humans had long believed themselves pioneers of exploration, carving their way into space with determination and ingenuity. The discovery under the moon's surface challenged that belief. Humanity was no longer the first explorer. It was a late arrival in a story already written by unknown hands. Theories about the purpose of the subsurface complex grew more daring. Some researchers proposed that the structure could have been a communication hub, relaying signals across the solar system. Others argued it might have been a scientific outpost, studying Earth during its primordial development. A few speculated that the structure might have been placed as a safeguard, designed to preserve knowledge or activate under specific cosmic conditions. The absence of immediate danger did little to quell the unease. The scales of time involved were vast, and humanity had no guarantee that dormant systems wouldn't awaken. China's continued probe operations revealed additional anomalies. Strange electromagnetic signatures occasionally pulsed from the structure, resonating with frequencies that had no known natural source. These pulses appeared irregular, almost as if the structure were attempting to recalibrate or stabilize itself after an impossibly long dormancy. Engineers analyzing the data warned that such emissions could indicate internal mechanisms still responding to cosmic radiation or thermal stress. Others feared they might be remnants of automated routines, the ghostly remnants of a machine carrying out its final instructions. The discovery also reignited debates about the moon's origin. For centuries, researchers had proposed competing theories: a massive collision, capture by Earth's gravity, or co-formation with Earth as a binary system. But the presence of artificial structures challenged all of these assumptions. If the structure predated the moon's current geological formations, it implied the moon itself might not have formed naturally. At the very least, it indicated that some intelligence had intervened in its early development. Whether the moon was modified or partially engineered became a topic of intense investigation. Observatories detected faint gravitational waves emanating from the region surrounding the buried complex. Initially dismissed as noise, these waves were later found to display rhythmic oscillations, suggesting a possible function related to stabilization or internal balance. If the structure had been designed to regulate gravitational fields, it would explain long-standing anomalies in the moon's orbit and rotation. This possibility sent shockwaves through the astrophysics community. Humanity had spent centuries studying celestial mechanics, unaware that a silent machine might have been influencing the moon's behavior from within. Philosophers and cultural scholars also weighed in, exploring the psychological impact of the discovery. The moon had anchored mythologies, religions, and cultural traditions throughout human history. Its quiet presence offered comfort, familiarity, and stability. Knowing that a mysterious and ancient construction lay hidden beneath its surface made it feel less like a celestial companion and more like an artifact, a deliberate creation with unknown origins. Humanity's relationship with the moon shifted, filling with wonder yet edged with apprehension. Speculation intensified as experts debated whether the structure was a relic or a masterpiece of long-term design. If it were intended to endure millions of years, it represented engineering precision on a scale beyond human capability. The fact that any part of it remained intact suggested that the creators had mastered technologies far superior to Earth's most advanced innovations. The existence of such creators posed unsettling questions. Were they still out there? Had they moved beyond the solar system? Or had their civilization collapsed long ago? And if they once watched Earth, what had they been looking for? Public fascination grew as the story spread. People everywhere found themselves gazing at the moon differently, wondering what secrets lay beneath its serene surface. For the first time, the moon felt less like a backdrop to the night sky and more like a silent monument left by a forgotten intelligence. Even those skeptical of extraterrestrial explanations acknowledged that the discovery demanded serious consideration. The evidence was too compelling, too scientifically grounded to dismiss outright. China's probe continued its slow descent toward the target region, preparing for a closer survey. The prospect of retrieving physical samples from the structure raised hopes and fears in equal measure. A direct encounter with the metallic surface could unlock unimaginable knowledge, but it could also trigger unknown responses from mechanisms dormant for ages. As the probe approached the subsurface chambers, instruments detected residual magnetism and faint traces of radiation, unlike any known decay pattern. It was as though the structure had been designed to protect itself from time itself. While the world awaited more data, questions multiplied. What if the structure was part of a larger network spread across the moon or even throughout the solar system? What if other celestial bodies harbored similar secrets? If the creators had once possessed the capability to modify or utilize the moon, they might have left artifacts elsewhere, perhaps buried in Martian soil, hidden within icy moons, or drifting silently among the asteroids. The scope of the discovery expanded far beyond the lunar surface, hinting at a broader cosmic narrative waiting to be uncovered. Researchers studying the moon's seismic data noticed curious patterns, faint vibrations that seemed to align with the internal grid suggested by the probe's scans. These vibrations were so subtle they had blended into background noise for decades. Now, with new context, they appeared intentional. Some scientists theorized that the structure might have served as a stabilizing anchor, dampening seismic fluctuations or maintaining internal balance. If this was true, The moon's famous ringing during quakes, a phenomenon noted in past missions, could have been a byproduct of the immense internal structure absorbing and redistributing energy. The possibility that humanity had misunderstood the moon's behavior for centuries underscored the magnitude of the discovery. It wasn't merely a scientific breakthrough, it was a revelation that shifted the foundation of lunar knowledge itself. Suddenly, every past observation required reevaluation. Data once considered anomalies became potential clues, fragments of a long-hidden truth now emerging into the open. Writers, artists, and thinkers across the world found themselves drawn to the unfolding mystery, weaving interpretations and symbolisms around the discovery. The moon, once a symbol of solitude and stillness, now represented the unknown, a silent witness to epochs older than humanity. Some embraced the marvel of the discovery, while others grappled with the existential dread it carried. If intelligence had preceded humanity in the solar system, humanity's future trajectory might need to be reconsidered entirely. As the probe neared its most critical scanning stage, instruments detected increases in electromagnetic resonance from the structure. Though still faint, the signals displayed patterns reminiscent of a system processing or adjusting. Engineers ruled out the probe as the source and verified that the readings originated from within the buried complex. The discovery raised new concerns. If the structure were truly dormant, why did it emit coordinated frequencies? Was it reacting to the probe's presence or responding to environmental changes on the moon? Or had it been silently operating all along at levels too subtle for earlier instruments to measure? The resonance sparked discussions about whether the structure's technology relied on principles unknown to modern science. If the creators had mastered energy distribution, gravitational manipulation, or magnetic resonance at advanced levels, the structure's faint signals might represent processes beyond human detection, processes that had continued uninterrupted for epochs. The notion that the moon housed a functioning relic of an ancient intelligence altered the perspective of researchers worldwide. Every new revelation deepened the mystery. The buried structure was unlike anything humans had ever encountered. It was ancient, engineered, and complex, with properties suggesting a blend of technology and materials far beyond human innovation. Its discovery forced humanity to reckon with the possibility that it was not the first to explore, observe, or shape the solar system. For the first time, the moon felt less like a passive celestial body and more like a carefully placed enigma, a silent repository of secrets too vast to fully grasp. The story unfolding across the scientific community was not one of fear-mongering, but of profound transformation. Humanity had long gazed up at the moon, imbued with wonder, longing, and curiosity. Now, for the first time, that curiosity was met with something tangible. Something that didn't just hint at a deeper cosmic narrative, but pointed directly to it. The implications stretched far beyond the scope of any one nation or organization. They touched every field of study, every philosophy, every belief about humanity's place in the universe. China's new moon discovery had confirmed what many had quietly suspected or even feared. Humanity was not alone in its journey through cosmic history. The universe held traces of intelligence far older, far more advanced, and far more mysterious than anyone had imagined. And those traces weren't light years away in distant galaxies. They were right there, beneath the moon's silent surface, waiting to be unveiled. The deeper China's probe descended into its analysis of the lunar subsurface, the more extraordinary the revelations became. Each transmission brought clarity to earlier mysteries while simultaneously introducing new layers of complexity. Scientists knew they were dealing with something far beyond the boundaries of traditional lunar science, yet what made the discovery even more startling was the emerging coherence of the structure's design. It was not a random array of chambers and metallic veins. It was a system, organized, interconnected, purposeful. The further the investigation progressed, the more evident it became that the structure had been built with intention and foresight, guided by principles of engineering that surpassed the limits of any known civilization. Detailed scans revealed that the internal architecture followed a mathematical precision rooted in universal constants. Ratios seen in orbital mechanics, harmonic frequencies, and particle physics appeared in the spacing of corridors and the dimensions of cavities. These measurements were so exact that they suggested the builders possessed a profound understanding of the universe's foundational laws. The structure did not merely exist beneath the moon's crust, it harmonized with the moon's internal geometry, fitting seamlessly into its natural contours as though designed in parallel with the satellite itself. This led some researchers to propose that the builders might have had influence over the moon's early formation, subtly shaping its interior to accommodate the complex now being uncovered. China's scientists began constructing three-dimensional models using the probe's multi-layer scans, slowly assembling a virtual representation of the hidden system. As the models took shape, they revealed a sprawling network extending deeper than originally anticipated. Multiple levels branched out in radial patterns, converging at what appeared to be a central chamber. The chamber was massive, dwarfing every other cavity within the complex. Its symmetrical design suggested that it served as the heart of the entire structure. Energy readings around this chamber were slightly elevated compared to the surrounding tunnels, indicating that even in its ancient and degraded state, it retained traces of its intended function. The central chamber's significance sparked intense debate. Some speculated that it could have been a repository, a vault containing information or technology stored for purposes unknown. Others believed it might have been a control center governing whatever function the structure originally served. A minority of researchers proposed a more provocative idea, that the chamber might have once housed something living or active, perhaps even a form of consciousness integrated with the technology. Although there was no direct evidence to support this theory, the chamber's architectural prominence and residual energy patterns kept the speculation alive. More unsettling were the acoustic readings captured by the probe. As it conducted sonic mapping of the interior, the vibrations resonated along the structure's walls in harmonic patterns that almost resembled language. The oscillations repeated in sequences, as though carrying encoded information. Engineers verified that these resonance patterns were not random. They followed mathematical progressions, shifting subtly as the probe moved between sections of the structure. Some hypothesized that the vibrations represented a form of data storage, preserved not in physical inscriptions, but in tonal sequences embedded within the metallic material itself. If this was true, the structure might still contain immense knowledge, accessible only through methods humanity had yet to develop. China's researchers also noted that the structure appeared to be partially fused with the surrounding lunar bedrock. The metal and the stone blended seamlessly, as if the builders had manipulated both materials at a molecular level. The lack of seams or joints hinted at a construction technique far more advanced than welding or casting. Instead, the builders may have used controlled energy fields to bind the materials together. This process not only ensured durability but also allowed the structure to endure extreme pressure and temperature conditions for eons without significant deterioration. As international scientists followed each update closely, many were struck by the implications of such engineering prowess. If the builders of the lunar structure possessed technology capable of manipulating matter with such precision, they might have also harnessed energy in ways that humans could scarcely imagine. This raised profound questions about whether the structure could have been powered by sources unknown to earthly science, such as vacuum energy, controlled fusion, or even gravitational manipulation. The possibility that the structure might have once drawn energy directly from the moon's internal dynamics, its rotation, its tidal forces, or its magnetic interactions with Earth, suggested a level of sophistication far superior to modern engineering. While the scientific community grappled with the technological aspects, another field found itself deeply entangled in the implications: astronomy. The moon had served as a stable cosmic platform for billions of years, influencing Earth's tides, climate cycles, and evolutionary patterns. If the structure was indeed tied to the moon's internal mechanics, its presence might have subtly shaped Earth's development as well. Some theorists ventured the idea that the builders could have influenced the moon's orbit intentionally. If true, then the relationship between Earth and the moon, the rhythms that governed ocean tides, reproductive cycles, and environmental stability, might have been engineered outcomes rather than natural coincidences. The idea was as awe-inspiring as it was troubling. If humanity owed aspects of its existence to ancient intervention, then the trajectory of evolution might not have been entirely random. For the first time, researchers contemplated the possibility that Earth had been observed or guided in ways that transcended the simple mechanics of nature. Not controlled perhaps, but influenced, or prepared. This concept reshaped philosophical and scientific discussions across the globe, prompting renewed examination of Earth's earliest developmental milestones. China's probe continued refining its scans, revealing intricate patterns etched into some of the structure's metallic surfaces. These patterns were incredibly faint, worn down by time and pressure, yet discernible through advanced imaging. They resembled fractal designs, repeating at micro and macro scales. Scientists speculated that these etchings might serve as structural reinforcement, energy conduits, or encoded information. The fractal nature of the patterns suggested a deep understanding of resonance, efficiency, and self-similarity, principles used in cutting-edge technology today, but taken to a far more advanced level in the lunar structure. Debates intensified around the nature of the builders themselves. Some experts argued they must have been a spacefaring species with a highly advanced understanding of physics and engineering. Others suggested they could have been descendants of an earlier civilization that existed within the solar system long before Earth became habitable. If such a civilization had risen and fallen millions of years ago, the lunar complex might be the only surviving remnant of their existence. This perspective opened new avenues of research, encouraging scientists to investigate ancient meteorites, planetary scars, and anomalous geological formations with renewed scrutiny. Speculation also grew around the possibility that the builders might have left intentionally encrypted messages or instructions within the structure. If so, deciphering them would require not only technological innovation, but also a fundamental shift in how humans approached communication. The encoded vibrations, fractal patterns, and architectural alignments might each represent pieces of a vast puzzle. Humanity might be standing on the edge of a message left behind by beings whose methods of conveying information differed entirely from human norms. Meanwhile, the probe uncovered new metallic veins running deeper into the moon's interior, branching off from the primary structure like roots or conduits. These channels exhibited unusual electromagnetic properties, suggesting that they once carried energy or information across a much larger area. This discovery hinted that the structure uncovered so far might only be a fraction of a much grander system. The idea that the entire lunar interior could contain interconnected architecture, hidden far from surface detection, challenged the long-held assumption that the moon was a simple, dead world. The presence of such a widespread system brought a new dimension of significance to the discovery. If the moon did contain extensive internal infrastructure, it might have served roles far beyond mere observation or data storage. Some theorists proposed that it could have functioned as a stabilizing mechanism for the Earth-Moon system, ensuring orbital consistency and environmental balance on Earth. Others suggested it could have been a terraforming instrument, helping regulate conditions favorable for life to develop. While these ideas remained speculative, they reflected the magnitude of the questions now confronting science. The structure's layout also suggested an awareness of cosmic alignment. Several corridors and chambers pointed toward specific celestial coordinates, aligning with star systems that had shifted over millions of years. By tracing these alignments backward through time, astronomers attempted to identify whether the builders had connections to regions of the galaxy now distant or unrecognizable. These alignments might have served navigational purposes, calibration functions, or as markers of significance for the builders. The fact that they were embedded so deeply in the lunar design indicated that they held immense meaning. Discussions emerged about the builders' possible motivations. If the structure was designed to endure millions of years, it might have been intended as a long-term archive or beacon. Alternatively, it could have been created to outlast catastrophic events, preserving knowledge through cycles of cosmic upheaval. The endurance of the structure through countless impacts, temperature extremes, and geological stresses testified to its astonishing resilience. The builders had crafted something meant to stand the test of time, not for years or centuries, but for epochs. As China's mission progressed, the broader scientific community faced the monumental challenge of interpreting the data without falling into conjecture unsupported by evidence. Yet even with cautious analysis, the implications remained profound. The discovery reframed humanity's understanding of its cosmic environment, revealing that intelligence, perhaps advanced intelligence, had touched the solar system long before humans took their first steps on Earth. This realization prompted a surge of interdisciplinary collaborations, uniting physicists, biologists, archaeologists, astronomers, and linguists in an unprecedented effort to decode the lunar mystery. Even cultural scholars found themselves deeply involved, exploring how the discovery resonated with ancient myths and traditions. Many cultures had long held stories of celestial beings, sky visitors, or lunar guardians. While these tales were not treated as scientific evidence, some researchers wondered whether ancient humans had encountered remnants of the builder's presence or sensed the moon's hidden significance. The discovery reawakened interest in humanity's earliest narratives, prompting scholars to revisit them not as literal truths, but as reflections of instinctive awareness or ancestral intuition. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on China's new moon discovery and what will happen next? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.